everyone, welcome to another episode of Mental Health Forum. And in our today's program, we are going to discuss a very important issue, which is very crucial in these days as well. And that is the link between antidepressant and suicide in youth. And that is in particular Australia. So why we choose this topic is every life matters a lot. And when we say that every life matter and we look at the data, then we find out that in last 10 years, even though government and everyone working really hard, but still the suicidal ratio in youth is rising day by day. And of course, now in during this pandemic, it's really important to discuss that what are the reasons. So for this, let's welcome my co-host and even for guest for tonight is Kim Kulin. She is Executive Director of CCHR. Hi Kim.
Hi Sana, how are you?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. Very busy, but that's I think what we need to do these days, keep ourselves as busy productively as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even our today's topic is also very important to discuss, Kim. And you have lots of things to discuss. So let's begin our today's topic, and that is the antidepressant and the link of suicidal thoughts in youth. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks, Sana. It's really important that we look at this because this is not from my personal viewpoint. This is from a report. Like while I've been home, I've had a chance to do quite a bit of research and studies, and I wanted to give you the timeline of what's been happening in this particular report. So basically, on June the 5th, a study was published in Frontiers of Psychiatry called Youth Antidepressants Associated with Increased Suicide and Self-Harm. Now, I'm going to be reading a lot of this to you because, as I said, it's not something that's mine. It is something that's in these papers. And I want to share with you the actual paper, and you
Yeah.
can download it yourself. There it is there. And it was actually released on June the 5th, and it was in the Frontiers of Psychiatry, which is a very prestigious medical manual, not a manual, a document that comes out. Anyway, so this was written by three very well-known researchers and advocates for changes in mental health in Australia, Melissa Raven, Martin Whiteley, and John Giordini, who's actually also a psychiatrist in South Australia. So these researchers work with the Curtin University in Western Australia and are very proficient in what they're doing. For example, Martin Whiteley used to be an MP and he's also a teacher. So we're dealing with people who know what they're talking about. And so they studied the information and they found out that, well, basically I'll just go over what the paper discusses. So there was an ongoing controversy in Australia following a Food and Drug Administration, which is the FDA. Now that is in the United States. The FDA is the drug regulatory body. And in Australia, we have the Therapeutic Goods Administration, which is the drug regulatory body. And what they do is they tell the doctors which drugs that they can prescribe, what the level of drugs is, how dangerous they are, and they approve the drugs for use. And this is needs to be like it's per law that the doctors, our doctors and psychiatrists need to follow this. Anyway, so in Australia, there was a Food and Drug Administration warning cautioning the use of antidepressants that they may cause suicidal thoughts and behaviours in persons under 18. And so what happened was that the researchers explained that the major psychiatric institutions have mostly declined to acknowledge this issue, and in fact several prominent Australian mental health advocacy organisations and influential psychiatrists disputed the antidepressant use suicidal connection and claimed that the use of antidepressants on balance reduced the risk of suicide. Now, In 2004 to 2007, the US FDA, Food and Drug Administration, looked at this risk of suicidality, and what they do is they get reports, they get adverse drug reaction reports as we do here, and they look at this data and they determine it, and then they put the warnings on the drugs, and they put on a black box warning on the antidepressants stating that, and this is the highest form of warning, right? Stating that these drugs are associated with suicidal thoughts and suicide. So to be very aware when you're taking them. Now, in Australia, our Therapeutic Goods Administration decided not to take that action, and they took a lot softer action in 2005. So what happened here in Australia was that certain influential people and peak organisations made less of this finding in the media, and also most likely to our governments. So this was undermined. So it should have been made that it was a very important thing, and it was made less of. So one of the points that we probably should look at, Sana, is that 90% of antidepressants in Australia are actually prescribed by our own GPs. But I'm sure they're doing it with all in goodwill. We go to our doctors and we trust our doctors, so they're not doing it in an evil, horrible way. They're looking at what is the best way to treat people. So if you're being educated that, this is the best way to do it because this is going to help people more, then that, you're the doctor, that is what you do. And there are very, very stringent guidelines, and there is the Therapeutic Goods Administration actually puts out data on this, and this is the document that we have on this talking about the drugs. So we have a situation where this paper came out, this paper that I showed you, which is easy to find in the, you can do a Google search on it, or if you'd like to email me, I'm very happy to send it to you. So what happened then, we had one of our local MPs, a federal MP who's for Bruce, which is in the Dandenong region. He actually spoke up in Parliament about this. And on the 10th of June, he said, "Youth mental health and suicide are critically important to all of us. Every life lost to suicide is a tragedy for the person who dies and for all who love that person. Suicide reverberates over years and a lifetime." So he's saying this in Parliament, federal Parliament, and then he went on to say, "The fact is that despite more than a decade of focus, youth suicide rates in Australia are still rising. The outcome that really matters is going in the wrong direction." And then he further points out, over the same decade that suicide rates for young Australians have steadily increased, the prescribing rates of antidepressants for child, adolescents and young adults have also increased by 66%. So you have this statistic where the number of antidepressants are going up, and the same line, a little bit lower, the number of suicides. So it's very concerning, and we just need to look at the facts, because what we're trying to do is help people and educate them on mental health. And a lot of the shows we've done is talking, these lovely people we've had coming on and giving us lots and lots of alternatives. So looking at it in this light, we can see that there are all these other things that people can do before they take antidepressants. So why is this rate going up,
And I think, Kim, that is the reason when me and you, we decided that we have to do such kind of mental health forum, just to give other sort of awareness or education that there are other ways as well, rather than taking medicine, which is essential at some point. But there are other ways as well, which you can, if you like, do yoga, you can go for naturopath therapies and all that. You can cure yourself.
Absolutely, Sana. And it's like, if if people do have a serious mental illness that's really affecting them and the way they live their life, then even the doctor's guidelines are set out to get them to look at all the other alternatives, not to go straight to the drugs, because the drugs are addictive. And when you look at something like the data that's being given here, there are far too many people being put on these drugs. Like, for example, going on with what Mr. Hill states in Parliament, he said there's a fact, and this is, I knew this anyway, that these drugs are not approved for use. The antidepressants are not approved for use for children or young adults. So in Australia, we're giving children drugs, what's called off-label, but against the manufacturers or, the Therapeutic Goods Administration and the Food, Drug and Drug Administration's recommendations anyway. And then what we've found is that between 2017, there was over 100,000 children on these drugs, 100,000 kids. And to me, that is just horrific. And then the other thing that we've seen, so we've got an increase in, 66% of the increase of people on drugs, and that in the last 10 years, we've seen a rise of 49% of these same children and youth committing suicide. It's absolutely astounding. But the good news is that it's being exposed. People are talking about it. It's coming up. It's being brought out into the public domain. And if people are aware of those things, then they can look at it and go, whoa, hang on a sec. Is that really the way I want to go? I'm going to do my own research on it and find out a little bit more about it. But it was like, I just wanted to also show people, this is something you can also get on the internet. In Parliament, all of the debates that they have is recorded. They're all recorded and they're all accessible for the public. And they're called the Hansard. And this is the Hansard. This is the copy of the speech where Mr. Hills says this, where the MP says this. And he's done it. So he did that. Then, fortunately, after that, the federal minister, the health minister, actually decided to, he knew he had to do something about it. So there's, Sydney Morning Herald Health Minister orders review after study links antidepressants and youth suicide. So you can just go Google this yourself, find the data. This is not me saying this. This is the health minister now stating this, right? So after that article, he went back and he went into Parliament again, and he had once again, he brought it up again, the issue up again, which was really good. And he said, this seriously questions the whole of Australia's mental health establishment. So I think that's something that we really need to take to heart, that, that's what we're doing, Sana, in our show. We're questioning the treatments. It's like, you're a counsellor and you help people with mental health issues, and I think it's amazing and wonderful that you guys are offering, free counselling sessions to help people, and I hope people are taking advantage of that, because I know you give incredibly sensible advice, and you're not going to recommend people to go and have antidepressants. Go see your doctor and get some antidepressants if you're not feeling well. Well, no, that's not the solution,
Yeah.
So I was very, very pleased that the MP Julian Hill actually went into Parliament and brought this issue up. And he said, I just want to state something else. Lastly, what he said, right? He said, and he's reiterating himself, I think after 10 years of data heading in the wrong direction, it's time that we actually had a proper inquiry into this. For the first time, actually, in the decade or so, this issue has been raised by some, and it's quite controversial. It's disputed within the mental health community of Australia. The paper was co-authored by the Professor of Psychiatry from the University of South Australia. These are not fringe dwellers or nutters. They have a fundamentally different view of this issue, against the, I'm not going to say who, the mental health establishment that people are. I've got it here. But, I mean, that's not what I want to do here. I'm not here to attack anyone. I'm sure people are very well-intentioned in what they're doing. But the data has been, the information, the facts have been skewed around, misrepresented slightly or whatever, however, but the fact is that they have, and I think we need to be reporting the facts. Yeah. We have in Australia, we are the second highest private, second highest. Iceland is higher than us. Yeah. I mean, at least they've got an excuse there because they're cold over there. It's not so cold here. Yeah. So I just wanted us to share this with your viewers, Sana, because it is a very important issue. But we also need to let people know that, really if they are on any sorts of drugs, any sort of medication, do not, if you're on antidepressants, do not just stop taking these drugs. You need to get a competent doctor to help you and to work with you on doing this. Finding, as I say, I think every show, Sana, I say people need to find the underlying medical condition, get that handled,
Yeah.
And, we can go from there.
And I think it's really important to discuss this data as well, because sometimes, of course, if you're not feeling well, then sometimes we oversees the issues that, why we feel depressed and all that. I still remember when we do a show, on hormonal therapy, then for the first time, even I come to know as well that you have to see or check the hormonal balance as well. Sometimes if they are not balanced or something like that, then you still relate it with suicidal thoughts and all that. So rather than going on antidepressants straight away, you first need to do a proper checkup, find out the reasons, and then above all, you have to see what are the other reasons or other ways rather than going on medicine straight away. And as you mentioned as well, we are not saying stop taking medications because you are using it as per doctor recommendation, but just let's work out on the issues and then see how you are able to to get out of depression, anxiety, and plus whatever we mention always is look at the positive side and be positive always. Isn't it, Kim?
Absolutely. Totally 100%, you're 100% right. And it's not always easy to look positive. It's what's happening, especially now, if you're living in Victoria, we're in a situation here when we've been locked down, and not only that, we're under a curfew. We can't leave our house. Do you know, Sana, not ever in Australia has this occurred. We have never, ever, ever been put under curfew.
Yeah.
So it's like, to stop this, the spread of this virus, the government's decided that this is the way to do it. I have my own thoughts on that, but I'm not going to talk about that on this show because that's not what we're here for, Sana. But what we're here for is definitely we want to let people know that there is hope and that there is something that they can do about it. And also, one of the things that we are doing with Citizens Commission on Human Rights Victoria, if you would like to go onto our website, which is just www.cchrvictoria.org.au, we'll put it in the chat box later on, then you can go into we have a documenting form there. You can go into that, and if you have been put on antidepressants and you've had any adverse reactions or any other drugs or any other sort of abuse, please let us know, because we are documenting these cases, because this is the information that our MPs need to know. Right? They need to know this so that then they can take it on board and they can help their communities. And I think this is really what our MPs want to do. They're here to help us. That's their job.
Yeah.
You know, they're working for us. We're not working for them, right? And but if they don't have the information and the facts, then how are they going to know that this is occurring?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I must acknowledge this that Kim, CCHR is doing really great work. And end of the day, for ages, you are trying to raise awareness and documenting, like, if anyone is going through any sort of trauma and all those things. And end of the day, that is a big community service. And on top of it, like, from this forum, of course, every now and then we collectively try to raise awareness about different issues, the different options and all that. And I hope so that people are getting aware about mental health, how to stay positive, what are the different options. And plus, like, last week we discussed yoga therapy, so there are different therapies
Yes,
as well.
yes. And then,
And
like what you were saying with John, John Katsakis,
yeah,
with
yeah,
hormone therapy and his own, he does his own compounding. He's a chemist and he has his own factory to do that, his own facility. So
yes,
there are some amazing people, and then we have had some lovely people come on our show and talk, and we probably should
yes,
do some highlights of them. Oh, and the other one I'd like to mention is Dr. Narita James. She
yes,
came on one of our shows early, and I'd like to
yeah,
actually get her on again and see how she's coping with dealing with patients in this situation. So
in this
maybe we could
situation, yeah,
invite her again.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Now, like, we are lucky enough that we have amazing guests, and like, in future we are also trying our level best to raise different issues. And like, it's been like, it's a great privilege for us that these people will come on board and discuss and highlight all these issues.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, Kim. Again, today we discuss a very important topic, which is the use of antidepressant, the link between use of antidepressant and suicide. And again, thanks for your contribution. So again, for our viewers, please keep watching and keep supporting A1 TV. Till then, bye from Sanazia and Kim Kulin.